Welcome back, programmers, to another video in our Boardwalk Trivia Game series. This is a project on how to add some animation and style and special effects to your dice. Many of you have asked me how to make it look like it's rolling and actually show the value they rolled. And so we're going to take a look at that today. We're going to do a basic version and a little bit more advanced, but the secret is the advanced one's actually even easier to do than the basic. It just is a little bit more. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Here we are on the dice sprite, and when we look at costumes, we notice just one costume here called Costume 1. Let's go ahead and rename this costume by selecting here and typing in 1, the word 1, and update this dice to only show one circle. Make sure when you're working on your sprites that they're centered on this grid here. And by right-clicking on this dice costume, we can choose Duplicate. And now I have a copy of my first die. But this is going to be Costume 2. And we can take this circle, copy it, and paste it so that we have two circles for a value of 2 on our dice. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can make dice Costume 3 now. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to do that. This is how it's done. I duplicated my second costume, named 2. Right-clicked it, choose Duplicate, and we need to add a third circle, so we can copy and paste. And now I have a dice to show a value of 3. So let's go ahead and jump into our code and take a look at our player first. If you followed the player movement video, you already have this stack of code, which is how we handle our player's position. So if the dice roll is a 1 or a 2 or a 3, it moves them to each of those squares. The first time they play, they get to roll the dice one time. So let's take this code, and by dragging on it, we can take this whole stack and drag and drop it on the dice sprite. You'll see it wiggles like that. That's telling us we can let go. And if we look on the dice, here we are. So the algorithm is actually pretty close to being where we need it, but we need to change a couple of things. We want to have, instead of changing square numbers for the dice roll, we want it to change our costumes. So if the dice roll is 1, switch to Costume 1. If it's 2, switch to Costume 2. And if it's 3, switch to Costume 3. So go ahead and give that a try. If yours doesn't say 1, 2, or 3, that's because you need to, in your costumes, edit their names right here to say 1, 2, or 3. All right, we need to change this event. When I receive player 1 move, we actually want it to be when we click on the dice. So when the sprite is clicked, roll the dice, right? Pick a random number from 1 to 3, move our player, but also handle our animation over here. We could actually right-click on this and make a comment, and that comment is change the dice image to the value of the roll, something like that. So it'll actually look like the value it was rolled. Now, this is kind of the basic way. So you can see that when we click the green flag and I click on the dice, I rolled a 2. It says 2 for the variable. It actually moved my player to square 2, which is great, so we know that's working. And the dice has a costume of 2. But let's try again. Let's click the green flag, click the dice. There we go, we rolled a 1. The value is 1, the costume is the 1, and we only moved 1 space. But let's make it look like the dice is rolling. And we can do this with a couple of simple blocks. And we're going to go to a repeat. And we're going to put a repeat up at the very top here. And what we want to do is have the computer pick a random number of times to repeat going through the costumes. So we're going to say maybe like minimum of 5 times. And when you roll a dice on the table, it might topple over itself 5 times, or if you roll it really far, it might roll a lot. So let's make the minimum 5, and the maximum value of a random range here is 15. So pick a random number between 5 and 15, and use this next costume block. So it'll switch to a costume however many times it picks as a random number, and then we use a wait. I think 1 second is too long. If you're rolling a dice, it's changing its value probably a fraction of a second. So how about like 0.2 seconds? So let's go ahead and give it a test. When we click the green flag, our players at the start. When I click on the dice, it's going to pick a random number and switch the costume that amount of times every 2/10 of a second. And based on whatever we actually ended up rolling, the costume should appear. Let's take a look. Look at that. Dice roll 1, the costume is a 1, and we're on space 1. Okay, maybe we just got lucky. Let's test again. Let's click the green flag. Click the dice. Move to space 2. Shows a 2. Okay, everything's really good. So you'll notice there is a little bit of a delay. It moves us before the dice actually shows it. So you can tinker around with the time a little bit. Maybe it needs to change faster every 1/10 of a second. Or you need to decrease how many times it will actually pick a random range of 12. So anyways, go ahead and experiment around with it. You can have a lot of fun with this, and the sky's the limit. Feel free to add some sound if you want, so you can make it sound like the dice is rolling. Okay, good luck out there, and I'll see you in the next one.